Have you ever found it hard to not only fall asleep, but also stay asleep throughout the night, no matter how tired you are? What if I told you there's a secret to making sure you have a sleep-friendly environment? Not just in your routine, but also in your bedroom setup. In this video, I'm gonna go over some science-backed tips that can simply transform your bedroom into a much better sleeping experience. So make sure you stick around because you don't want to miss any of these tips. Number one is going to be optimizing your lighting. In general, during the morning time and afternoon time, you want to be exposed to more sunlight, and then towards the evening time, you want less light, and at nighttime, you want it to be pitch black. One way you can do this is to start dimming the lighting towards the evening time. So as the evening hits, start using more dim lights throughout your house. You can start dimming the screens and other devices that you're using. This will all help signal your body that it's time to start winding down. This all relates back to a molecule called melatonin. So melatonin is a really important sleep hormone, and it's released in the evening time and more in the nighttime in response to darkness. So when there's an absence of light, you get a surge in melatonin. Now you'll be surprised how a little amount of artificial light can really delay your melatonin release. But your melatonin is important because it's a signal for your body to go to sleep. It doesn't actually put you to sleep, but it really helps make sure that you can go to sleep and stay asleep. Now, if you think back to our ancestors never had any artificial light. Their only source of artificial light, if you want to call it, was fire. That wasn't like a bunch of street lamps like the city of New York that were lit up all the time. They were really restricted where they could go based on how much their fire could light up. And that fire is a much lower intensity than a lot of these blue lights that we're exposed to. So their lighting was really optimized because by the time it came for them to go to sleep, it was pretty much pitch black. So when it comes to your bedroom, you want to kind of turn it into a dark cave. So one thing you can consider are blackout curtains. A lot of curtains I feel like are there just for show and also so that if you're changing or something, no one's gonna see you from outside. But they don't block a lot of light. But blackout curtains are really cool, and I just got some in my bedroom and it really makes a big difference. They literally block out every single ounce of light getting into your room. Now, even if they don't block out everything, they're still better than a lot of the blinds out there that let in a ton of light, especially if there's like a building next door over that has a lot of street lamps that just don't turn off. Humans just simply sleep better when it is dark. It's how we evolved. And if you have a little bit of light exposure, it can really delay and suppress your melatonin. If you don't have an option of getting you curtains, you can also try simply using an eye mask. Literally this like black cloth that goes over your eyes. There's a bunch of different ones you can get on Amazon or different stores, but this will also block out all the light. Now, when it comes to the evening time, it's really hard to just cut out all light, but you can at least try to cut out the blue light specifically. So sometimes you can have these filters on your phones and your tablets or other screens that is kind of like a blue light filter for the evening, where you just turn on like a night mode or something like that. I know my iPhone has this. But just simply doing this will make a big difference. Even though you're still exposed to that artificial light, it's not gonna be as bad as that blue light. Now, if you can, it would be better to avoid all these artificial screens and other lights like that. For example, it would be a lot better to read from a physical book versus reading from like an iPad or an e-reader. This study actually compared that. They compared people that would reading from a book versus reading for an iPad for about 4 hours before they slept. They found that the group that read from an iPad took a lot longer to fall asleep, and they had less melatonin. And actually, they had a lingering after effect. So these participants that read from the iPad, even after their iPad use stopped, for days afterwards, they had about a 90-minute delay in their melatonin release. So it was kind of like a digital hangover for these people. Also, the iPad group lost a significant amount of REM sleep specifically, which is the sleep that we get from our dreaming. They were also less alert the next day and they felt less well rested. Right now, about 90% of Americans will look at these electronic devices before they go to bed. So if you can at least cut that down a little bit, whether it's the amount that you use or at least the brightness or cut out some of the blue light, that will all help. Now, the second tip I have is gonna be managing noise levels. So one way you can do this is with white noise. So things like a fan, or sometimes people will use a noise machine. Sometimes people use their Alexa to make it sound like it's raining or something like that. But these are really good at masking other distracting sounds. If you're in an area like New York, for example, where there's constantly chaos outside, there's trains going, there's people honking and all this other stuff, then one thing you can also try are using earplugs to simply block out a lot of that noise and help keep your sleep quiet. Another tip I'd have is keep your phone on sleep mode until you have to wake up. Sometimes people sleep through a lot of like text messages and phone calls throughout the night, and I'm like, how do you even sleep through all that? Number 3 is gonna be controlling the temperature. This is a big one, and Controlling the temperature is one of the ways that you can really help even relieve symptoms of insomnia. We need a cool temperature when we're sleeping. The ideal temperature for sleep is 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Part of the reason for this is our core body temperature has to drop about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit or 1 degree Celsius to initiate sleep. But we just sleep better when it is cold. One thing you can also do to help initiate this cooling of your body is go to the sauna or just take a hot shower before you go to bed. When you expose your body to warmth like a sauna or a hot shower, then this heat will bring all the blood to the surface of your skin. And this will also dilate your blood vessels so that when you get out of that shower or out of that sauna, then these dilated blood vessels will help release a lot of your inner heat and start that cooling process. There's also a study further showing this. So this study had people take hot baths before bed, and they found that they could induce 10 to 15% more deep NREM sleep in healthy adults. Now, the fourth tip I have is invest in quality bedding. Doesn't mean you have to spend a ton of money, but you want to make sure that you're comfortable when you're sleeping. If it feels like you're sleeping on a rock, then you're probably not going to get good sleep, even if you do all the other things that I mentioned. So make sure that your mattress is comfy, your sheets are comfy, your pillows are comfy. All these things are really important. You might feel like a fragile princess when you're investing in your bedding, but really it's an investment to make sure that you can get good quality sleep and also function normally the next day. Now, the fifth tip I have is to establish a rhythm. Now, really it comes down to controlling your circadian rhythm. Your circadian rhythm is this internal clock that you have and also all mammals have. And it goes on this 24-hour cycle and is controlled by the SCN, or suprachiasmatic nucleus, in your brain. So not only does this control our sleep-wake cycle, like when we go to sleep and when we wake up, it really controls every single process in our body. A lot of processes in our body have these cycles, like our heart rate, our blood pressure, our metabolism, etc. Now, a lot of this has to do with light. Like a lot of the communication that our SCN does to help control the rest of our body, it does this in response to light. Now, this goes back to before, like how we talked about making sure you get that sunlight exposure during the day and earlier times, but also dimming the lights and getting darkness at nighttime. But really, to properly control your circadian rhythm, you want to have a consistent schedule. So ideally, you'd be waking up and going to bed at the same time, even on the weekends. If you can arrange your schedule like this, that would be ideal. But if you're the type of person that wakes up super early on the weekdays and then likes to sleep in for 4 extra hours on the weekends, then yeah, that extra sleep might feel good, but it's not really good for your sleep in the long run. Also, when you have a consistent sleeping schedule, it'll ensure that you get a good distribution of your deep sleep. So there's 2 parts to our sleep. There's non-REM sleep and there's REM sleep. Our non-REM sleep has these different stages and they get deeper, the deeper stages that you go. Your REM sleep is where a lot of your dreaming occurs. Now, both non-REM and REM sleep are really important and they have different functions. So ideally, you would get the right amount of both of these different sleeping stages. But you get non-REM sleep more in the earlier times of the night and you get REM sleep more in the later parts of the night. Now, if you go to sleep later or wake up earlier, you're not going to be cutting into an even amount of sleep. You're going to be cutting into specifically either more non-REM or more REM sleep. Like for example, if you cut your sleep 2 hours short one day, then you're going to be missing out on a ton of your REM sleep. Versus if you go to bed 2 hours later, now you're going to be missing a lot of your non-REM sleep, even if you sleep 8 hours. And also, it's going to be harder for you to adjust your sleep like this because your melatonin is also based on your circadian rhythm. So let's say you're used to going to bed at 10 p.m. and then one day you decide to go to bed at 1 a.m. Well, your melatonin is going to be peaking at that 10 p.m. where you're used to going to sleep. Now, if you wait till 1 a.m., now you missed 3 hours of your peak of your melatonin. And your melatonin is going to go down around the same time anyway. It doesn't matter if you stayed up 3 hours later, your melatonin is not going to wait for you. So that means you're going to miss out on 3 hours of your melatonin being secreted in your body, which will help keep you asleep. Now, I also recommend if you're going to make yourself a sleep schedule, to have some time right before you go to sleep to just unwind and relax, whether it's through meditation or whether it's through reading a book, or whatever it is to just calm your body and just unwind. Because you don't want to be doing something stressful right up until it's time for you to go to sleep, because that's going to be really hard for you to fall asleep after. And also your mind's going to be active and your sympathetic nervous system is going to be active, which is going to delay your sleep. Now, the 6th tip I have is to limit stimulants. Just like how sunlight and artificial light will act as a stimulant for our circadian rhythm, other stimulants like nicotine and caffeine will activate your body in different ways. Caffeine consumption will block your adenosine receptors in your brain. Now, your adenosine is another really important sleep molecule, but it's different from melatonin. Your melatonin is part of your 24-hour cycle, and it goes up and goes down according to this 24-hour shift. But your adenosine will increase in response to how tired you are, or in response to how awake you've been. So the longer that you're awake, the more adenosine that you get. And the more adenosine that you get, the more sleepy that you will feel. So this is why caffeine works, because it'll block these adenosine receptors. So even though the adenosine is building up, it will be blocked from reaching its receptor, so you won't feel that sleepy. But the problem is when you consume too much of it, or if you consume it too late into the evening. If you have a cup of caffeine at like 6 p.m., it has a half-life of about 6 hours. So that's equivalent to having half a cup of coffee at midnight. And even if you're the type of person that can drink a cup of coffee and then go to sleep right after and feel like you're just fine, if there was an MRI scanner and actually looked at your brain, you'll see that your quality of sleep actually got a lot worse. And also people that sleep when they have caffeine in their system, they're more reliant on that caffeine the next day because they don't feel as well rested. So it's kind of this never-ending cycle. Now, this is the same reason why you want to avoid napping for too long or too late into the evening time. Because for the same reason, when you nap, it clears away this adenosine. So that while it might feel really nice, if you nap for too long or too late, then when it comes time for you to go to sleep at nighttime, then you might have these symptoms of insomnia, where you feel like you just can't go to sleep no matter how much you're lying there. Now, the 7th tip I have is to create a relaxing atmosphere. I know I talked about this a little bit before when it comes to your sleeping schedule, but whatever helps you create a calmer environment. I know some people like to use a diffuser or some other aromatherapy to help keep their body calm when it's time to go to sleep. And some people find it relaxing to declutter everything. Like, you don't want to sleep in an environment where there's clothes everywhere and there's all these files everywhere. It's better when everything's organized and nice and tidy. And again, specifically right before you go to bed, this is a really good time to add some sort of relaxation, like meditation, or whether it's you wanting to do an eye mask or some nighttime routine that you have that helps you get in the right state to go to bed. Even watching a TV show isn't so bad. I know it's still artificial light, and it would be better to read a physical book, but watching a TV show is better than something like, let's say, a video game. Studies actually show that even though both are these sources of artificial light, the video game is much more engaging, and it'll engage your sympathetic nervous system more, versus a lot of TV shows can be really relaxing and help you get in that state to go to sleep. Now, number 8, the last tip I have is to limit your bed use for sleep only. You want to associate your bed with either sleep or some sort of relaxation. You want to make sure you avoid watching TV or working or eating in your bed, because this will all kind of trick your brain into what your bed is actually used for. If you only use it for bedtime and for sleeping, then your brain will associate that with going to sleep. But if you start using it for other things, now your brain will kind of get confused. And also, if you're lying awake in bed, if it's been more than 20 minutes, what sleep experts recommend is to get up and go to a different room and wait there or walk around until you feel the urge to go to sleep again, or until you feel sleepy again. Because again, if you're lying awake in bed, struggling to go back to sleep, and it's been like 20 minutes, chances are you're probably not going to go to sleep for a while longer if you don't feel sleepy. Instead, you're going to get more anxious. You're probably going to look at the clock and think, oh my God, I'm missing out on so much sleep. It's actually better to get up, walk around for a little bit, and just accept it. Yeah, I'm probably going to miss a half hour of sleep. Whatever, it's just one of those nights. But if you stay in bed during this time, then you're going to start to associate that bed with that anxiety of not being able to go to sleep. But instead, if you force yourself to get out of bed and say, no, this bed is only for sleep and for relaxation, and you walk somewhere else, and then you feel sleepy and then go back into bed, then over time, it's going to trick your brain into knowing that this bed is only for sleeping and relaxing. So that's the last tip I have for you guys. I hope you liked the video, and if you haven't already, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel below. Did you know that your tongue plays a big role in your posture? That's right, your tongue isn't just for tasting food. And why is this important? Well, if you improve your tongue and your oral facial muscles, then you'll also improve your speech, your jaw development, your sleep, and also any breathing problems. So I'm going to go over some tongue exercises